The investigation itself cost about $9,000, but it cost more than twice that, about $20K, to pay Albert for 10 weeks while he was on leave. That's a total of $30,000.
$20,000. $20,000 to not work. That's a pretty nice paid vacation, if you ask me. Hello, and welcome to Alexasrewm, where we are not lawyers, we are not medical professionals, we are not law enforcement, we are just people. People who have opinions about all things going on in the true crime community, including this breaking news from the other day, following up from our last video about how much exactly did it cost taxpayers to investigate the, quote, misconduct of Kevin Albert, detective extraordinaire.
Testimony in the Karen Reed trial from Trooper Michael Proctor revealed Albert may have misplaced his badge and gun after the two men had drinks while working a case. And now the Canton Select Board will oversee an independent audit of the town's police department.
Stay with us.
Now, as we know, folks, in my last video, and if you missed that one, I will post it at the very end of this video so you can go check it out, where we read through that first 19 pages of, I believe it was a 77-page or so, investigative report that was done by another ex-police chief of, I believe, Winthrop, who you know is probably also buddies with Helena Rafferty. So, I mean, surprise, surprise there. And his punishment, of course, was what? 3 unpaid shifts, because I guess if your name has Albert at the end of it, then you just get a little love tapping on the back. But don't mistake, at least he remembered the 4 packs of beer. Thank God he remembered to take the beer with him. So again, documents from the other day that was recently obtained by NBC 10 Boston reveal how much it cost Canton taxpayers to investigate Detective Kevin Albert for his, quote, misconduct. Again, that's a nice way of saying drinking while on duty. The investigation itself cost about $9,000, but it cost more than twice that, about $20,000 to pay Kevin Albert for 10 weeks while he was on paid leave for a grand total of $30,000. $30,000 is like a minimum wage salary. I mean, my God, you cannot make this stuff up. During the Karen Reed trial, so this is where it came about. His buddy, Chip Proctor, revealed that Albert had misplaced his badge and firearm after a night of drinking back in 2022. And again, the whole conflict of interest thing didn't seem to be that much of a problem for anybody, even though Chip Proctor was a lead investigator in the Karen Reed case. I mean, conflict of interest, Kevin Albert is brothers with the homeowner of 34 Fairview, who is a witness in the same case that Chip Proctor is investigating. Now, I've seen a lot of people too speculate, like, were they actually working on a cold case or not? And again, according to the investigative report that we read through in my last video, you can go check it out. I will link it at the very end of this video. Claims that they were, but if that were the case, and he happened, according to Paul Gallagher, right, who just recently put in his retirement slip a couple of weeks back, right? He alleges that the process of assigning folks to state troopers to cold cases just happens to, I guess, go through kind of like a random select process. So pretty much it comes across somebody's desk, I guess, at the MSP, and then they get assigned from there on. So originally, this was a cold case that was brought, I guess there was some recent news articles or something like that that was drawn to. Somebody called in with a tip to the Canton Police Department because I guess the crime happened in Canton, or it was a Canton resident. Very unclear about the details about the cold case investigation. Now, I don't know. Again, it could be real. It could be legitimate. There could be a cold case that they were investigating, or maybe they weren't. Maybe they weren't. Maybe he was defrauding taxpayers of their money. I don't know. It's just my speculation. I have questions, but it definitely was not clear to me as to why these two, Chip and Kevin Albert, were working on a cold case together. Nonetheless, months after John O'Keefe's body was found on the front lawn of Kevin Albert's brother. Ring the alarm bells, would you? Canton police announced on Monday that Albert, who had already been suspended without pay, will face an additional 3-day suspension without pay due to the revelations from the Karen Reed trial. So that was his little love spanking there. So it's interesting. He was suspended without pay, but but then in the same breath, he was also awarded $20,000 for 10 weeks pay. So which is it? I'm a little confused here. Proctor, again, his buddy Chip, had to read those text messages. So now everything is in the hands of the Canton Police Audit Committee, not the Canton Select Board. So this was a little misreporting here. Will oversee this audit of the Canton Police Department. We should have some update and news in regards to that. Rumor has it, they're looking for a third party agency, I believe, over the next couple of weeks. Who knows if that's going to actually happen or not, but we will keep you posted here on Alexasrewm when they do find a third party non biased agency to conduct that investigation. But if things continue to go the way that they have been going, I don't really have too much faith in that police audit. And it's sad because there does need to be a police audit, a serious police audit done. And I believe by the right party, by a non-biased person, just going in and doing a thorough investigation that's fair to everybody, completely not unbiased. I think that they would be able to greatly improve their police department and potentially build trust back within their community. But it doesn't really seem like too much of a concern for the folks on at least the Canton Select Board and the Canton Police Audit Committee, or at least 3 out of the 2 members on that committee. Taxpayers wouldn't mind doing a thorough investigation of Kevin Albert if it cost $30K and they came up and they gave him the correct kind of punishment that made sense. I think everybody would feel fine with that. But that's the problem, is you're just taking people's money and essentially defrauding them. It's just transparency between what's going on behind the scenes in the Canton Police Department and sharing that with the community that they're allegedly trying to serve and protect. But they would rather drop $30K on that BS of an investigation than on something that is actually pretty scary and terrifying. I don't know if there's been any updates here, but this was as of July 20th. So these bleach-filled balloons that were thrown onto Canton residents, people who support Karen Reed and her innocence, her fight for innocence, Rita Lombardi, Brenda Sweeney, and Jen O'Donnell, who have been extremely vocal about it in the Canton Select Board meetings particularly. And people were throwing bleach-filled balloons. And I come to find, I think it was actually a more poisonous and dangerous chemical than just bleach, if you can believe that. So where is there an investigation going on there?
Tonight, police are investigating how bleach ended up damaging front yards and other property in Canton. Interestingly, all of these Canton homeowners are Karen Reed supporters. Our Aaron Logan spoke to them. It's an NBC 10 Boston exclusive.
Well, Glenn, this is just one of the yards damaged by those bleach-filled balloons. 2 of the 3 victims have filed police reports, and the police chief calling this situation unnerving for all the people targeted.
But you can see it's got a splatter.
It started as a small section of browning in the front of her yard.
Then I noticed a balloon, a water balloon that hadn't been popped.
None of this made sense to Rita Lombardi until she talked to her neighbor around the corner.
Bleach thrown on her beautiful flowers and vegetables.
Over the course of a week, Lombardi noticed broken balloons in her yard, followed by brown grass. She called Canton police. So did Brenda Sweeney. Sweeney didn't find balloons, just the smell of bleach and a destroyed garden.
Normally, this whole fence is full of flowers in the front and vegetables in the back, and we started noticing patches of it dying.
It's no secret Lombardi and Sweeney speak their mind at the town select board meetings along with Jen O'Donnell.
Take your hands off of it.
You could see O'Donnell getting into it with police at the last meeting.
And I believe that was the last in-person meeting that they did, or one of the last. And now they are hiding behind Zoom in their homes in their comfy chairs while Chris Albert sipping his iced coffee every single week, looking like Dana Carvey in the turtle suit.
We are looking for truth and accountability, and a lot of it came to light with the John O'Keefe murder, that we had some issues in this town.
Sweeney calls the incident extremely disappointing. Her husband spends hours working on his garden.
I mean, little kids come here and touch these figurines, and they're throwing bleach on them.
On Friday, we learned Jen O'Donnell also had some popped bleach balloons thrown on her yard.
Here's another one, and here's another one.
And on Lombardi Street, this bag of unpopped balloons found.
These people are stuck in middle school.
We reached out to Canton Police Chief Helena Rafferty regarding these pranks. She said in a statement, quote, any type of act in this community, or any community for that matter, that places another in fear for their safety and or diminishes their quality of life is unacceptable.
And that's so funny because when somebody else said that, aka Chrissy Albert, when he texted his buddy Yuri Buchanan, it was like all hands on deck to investigate Ducky Gate, which I reported on yesterday. If you want to check out that video, I mean, talk about priorities. So it doesn't seem like the Canton Police Department really cares about Canton residents actually being in fear for their safety. And nonetheless, whether or not they are in fear for their safety, it's destruction of somebody's property. And that is a crime that needs to be investigated. But no, they'd rather spend $30,000 on a completely botched internal affairs investigation into Detective Kevin Albert, because I guess he's such an all-star, right, in the Canton Police Department. What could we do? We can't do anything without Kevin Albert. I mean, we can't possibly imagine what we would do without him. We rely heavily on his critical thinking skills. He's an asset to the detectives unit. I mean, my God, what a freaking joke. Now, in other news, we did hear a response. CF McCarthy's today responded finally to the wrongful death suit filed by John O'Keefe's family. Paul O'Keefe is the head of the John O'Keefe estate. This lawsuit, we read through it again in a separate video earlier. A couple of weeks back, this was filed not too long after Bev declared a mistrial, and they were going through the whole appeals process about the motion to dismiss. Now, since then, the SJC is going to hear oral arguments in regards to the potential double jeopardy clause and overturning Bev's ruling. There is some good news in all of this.
Reed trial, one Canton bar currently being sued by John O'Keefe's family is responding to allegations that they overserved Reed the night her Boston police officer boyfriend was killed.
Our Kirsten Glavin breaks down this development from Norfolk Superior Court and what's been a busy week for fallout related to the case.
In new court documents, the Canton Bar CF McCarthy's denying their involvement in the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe back in January of 2022. The bar named in a wrongful death lawsuit by O'Keefe's family members, alleging CF McCarthy's served alcoholic beverages to a visibly intoxicated person, Karen Reed. Attorneys for the bar stating in response they lacked sufficient knowledge or information, then asking for proof.
She called him.
Karen Reed is accused of hitting O'Keefe with her SUV outside a home in Canton after a night of bar hopping, leaving him to die in the snow. Meanwhile, controversial blogger Aidan Carney, known as Turtle Boy, appearing in court again on Thursday for witness intimidation charges related to his covering of the high-profile case.
I would ask the court to allow the Commonwealth's motion.
The Norfolk District Attorney's Office wanting an independent team to review Carney's digital devices, but Carney filing a motion to suppress due to ongoing delays in the case.
30, 40, 50 days is unreasonable delay. We're over 300 days here, Your Honor.
On Monday, additional law enforcement fallout. Massachusetts State Police Detective Sergeant Yuri Buchanan forced to give back 5 vacation days for failing to supervise Trooper Michael Proctor, and Canton PD taking away 3 days' pay from Detective Kevin Albert, accused of drinking on duty.
These administrative actions that were taken as a result of disciplinary charges, those administrative actions are not going to move the needle of trust in the public eye.
Now, tonight we did, of course, reach out to the attorneys representing both C.F. McCarthy's and the O'Keefe family. C.F. McCarthy's attorney declined to comment, and the O'Keefe family's attorney did not get back to us. Reporting here outside of Norfolk Superior Court, I'm Kirsten Glavin, NBC 10 Boston.
Stay with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of interesting stuff is going to come out of those lawsuits because, like a lot of people have stated, this is a bar that's represented by high-powered attorneys. Karen Reed is also being represented by likely her insurance company. That new team of high-powered attorneys that can essentially drop probably billions of dollars. So this is going to get very interesting if it does go to a jury trial. So we will keep you all posted here on Alexasrewm. I mean, again, not too much in regards to that. I'll link those documents as well below too. I think it's about a 21 page or so response. It's a lot of repetitive stuff. So I didn't really feel like it was necessary to read through the whole document. NBC 10 Boston pretty much summed it up. The biggest thing though that came out of it was that they don't feel like they're liable for it, as they shouldn't, because looking back at all that testimony too from the trial, and we could do a rewatch, we probably will as we get closer to that retrial, about the bartenders testifying and all the witnesses that were also in the house as well too, that were at CF McCarthy's and later on at the Waterfall Bar and Restaurant as well, testifying that no, John O'Keefe and Karen Reed did not seem intoxicated. It's specifically Karen Reed, right? She's the perpetrator in all this. She did not seem intoxicated. Now, again, according to that BAC, it's hard to tell because when her BAC test was taken, it was hours after the fact. So it's hard to say exactly how intoxicated she was when she left the Waterfall Bar and Restaurant, when she arrived at 34 Fairview, and when she got back to John O'Keefe's house as well too. So again, I think a lot of really interesting information is going to come into play in the coming weeks ahead. But a civil lawsuit, this is going to drag out. So gear up, buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride, and who knows, maybe it'll eventually get dropped. I don't know. I think the O'Keefe family is pretty steadfast in taking Karen Reed to the cleaners for whatever reason. They think she's guilty. They believe it. Why they believe she's guilty, who knows? I'm not going to speculate on that further. I've done plenty of videos on my thoughts about Paul O'Keefe and the civil suit itself. But with that being said, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next Karen Reed update from me, because there's way more coming. Way more coming. It's like every single day. Every time I'm like, oh, new news, different case. Pivot. There's something else that happens within Canton or the MSP, and it's just like, guys, give me a freaking break, right? But if you want to stay up to date with all this news, make sure you hit that notification bell and make sure you hit that like button, because again, this is newsworthy news, and I want to make sure that you guys are always up to date on what's going on, because if it's going on in Canton, it's for show happening in your community as well too. And I think this is just a big eye opener for all of us to take action, pay more attention in our own communities as well too. So new members only video is going to be dropping tomorrow. Whoop, whoop. The first one. I'm excited. We're going to be covering a case that is very much new and developing, involving a missing woman. And then we will have our first deep dive rewind this Sunday. And again, if you are a member, you will get access to that video one day before everybody else gets it. So if you want to become a member, now's the best time to do so. So that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Happy Friday Day and cheers.